So it's week 18, Barclays Premier League, and just before I get started on a roundup of the match of the round, Manchester City versus Leicester, just a few words. Received the very sad news yesterday of the death of Martin Peters, age 76. And now for many of us, Martin Peters is remembered as one of the 11 heroes that brought the World Cup back to England in 1966. He was one of a trio from West Ham United, Bobby Moore, Jeff Hurst and Peters, who are etched in legend really in the English game. And he spent a large part of his career playing for West Ham, but also a long spell with Spurs, and he had a very successful career with them before finishing it off at Norwich. His coaching career wasn't anything to get worked up about, however. But anyway, very sad news, the death of Martin Peters, who scored that second goal in the World Cup final in 1966 when England went on to beat Germany by 4-2. West Germany. Okay, right. So to the Etihad then, and it's Manchester City who are third at home to Leicester who are second. Leicester 4 points ahead of City, so City really needed to win. Rodgers put Iniacho back on the bench. He'd started the last couple of games alongside Vardy, but it reflected perhaps a more conservative view of the match from Rodgers. For City, Aguero was on the bench, but Mahrez was in for Foden, and so an attacking side for City, and it was Mahrez who was quickly out of the blocks and set up De Bruyne, who clipped the post. Shortly after, he was at it again. This time Jesus was the recipient, but Schmeichel did enough to push the effort wide. And then we had a rare break for Leicester, for Vardy, but his cross failed to find a colleague. 22nd minute then, and Leicester, who'd really been on the back foot throughout, a break saw Barnes rush forward, and he managed to deliver a neat pass to Vardy, who was a step too quick for the defence, and the on-rushing Ederson was a mere passenger really, a spectator, as Vardy chipped it over him and it hit the net, and it was 1-0 to the Foxes. That was all that we could say really about Leicester, because from then on it was a walk City. Although Vardy could have had a second just minutes later, but this time his effort went over. But after that, it became a question of City, how long would it take for them to get back into this match? And not long really, 8 minutes in fact. On 30 minutes, Mahrez coming in from the right flank, as he does so often, got his shot away. It manages to hit Soyuncu and deflected past Schmeichel, and that was 1-1. Getting close to the half-time break now, and Sterling was clipped by Ricardo in the box, cleared penalty. Gundogan stepped up, and that was 2-1 City at the break. Just about on the break, Madison had an effort, but it was poured away by Ederson. So half-time, 2-1 for Manchester City. Into the second half then, and panic stations in early on for Leicester's defence, but a whistle from the referee eased their anxiety and calmed things down. Mahrez had a great shot that was battered away by Schmeichel, but once again it was really total domination from the blue machine, and on 69 minutes Jesus at the far post steered home a great cross by De Bruyne, who else, after another scintillating move. And that put City 3-1 up, and they didn't look back after that. Leicester, good lesson today, I think, for Rodgers' men. Man City far too good, and they won this game by 3-1. To St James's Park in Newcastle, home to Crystal Palace. These two sides had the privilege of having the statistic of the fewest shots on target this season, so we weren't expecting a rip-roaring game, but they're both comfortably in mid-table at the moment. Shelby was back. He's actually been quite prolific, 3 goals in 3. Van Aanholt was back for Palace. He'd had a hamstring problem. Kouati was in the centre of defence. An early chance for the Magpies, but Hayden, who made a nice run, managed to get the ball from Almiron, but he slipped at the crucial chance and the chance was gone. All eyes were on Almiron, and he created his own chance, but his shot was pretty tame and easily held by Guaita. Benteke also still striving for that goal. Well, he had a header, but it was pretty woeful, and then a speculative shot from Shelby from just inside the Palace half went just over, but it woke us up a little bit. And then Benteke put Zaha through, but his shot was smothered by Dubrovka. And that was about it. Mihalovic had a free kick which went just wide, but it was goalless at the break. Into the second half, then Van Aanholt put Mahafa through his paces, and the keeper, the effort was blocked over the top. The effort from MacArthur, that is. Benteke actually tested the keeper, Dubrovka, who managed to palm the ball behind. And then on 83 minutes we had a pure piece of brilliance to break the deadlock. A cross from the left, and Andy Cowell rose high above the defender and flicked the ball back to Almiron, who was around the penalty box, and he swiveled and hit the ball on the volley, and it hit the net, and the relief was contagious around St James's Park. This guy hasn't scored a goal in 27 games, and this was his first for the club, and he raced to the touchline and jumped into a fan's arm with pure joy and exhilaration, and he was surrounded by his colleagues. He put the Magpies ahead, and they held on to that lead and won the game by a 1-0. This boy from Paraguay is a great player, and hopefully this is now the top. He's lit the touch paper, and he's going to move on to bigger and better things. He is a class act. So final score then at St James's Park was Newcastle 1, Crystal Palace. So to Carrow Road then, Norwich at home to Wolves. Godfrey was back for the Canaries. Look, Wolves were unchanged, and an early chance from McQueen, but Patricio managed to get a finger and push it just wide. But Norwich were on the front foot, and Teddy had an effort from distance that hit a post. And when we saw the replay, Patricio again managed to tip the ball round onto the post. But he couldn't do much about Cantwell's effort on 17 minutes. Neat move, created some space, and a really strong shot, and it was in the corner, and 1-0 to the Canaries. They should have doubled their lead a little later. Pukki was put through, but his effort trickled wide, and in added time Wolves did get their first effort, but Traore's cross deflects into the arms of Krul. So 1-0 to the Canaries at the break. Second half was a different matter entirely. Early opportunity for Wolves. Neves free kick, but the offside flag came to the rescue, thwarting Wolves. Gwendia then had an effort from Rage which went inches over, but Traore was becoming more and more influential in the game, and eventually he fed Jimenez on the right, and the shot deflected over from the ensuing corner. Saiz managed to get his head to it, and it went past Kroll, and so Wolves had levelled it. A few minutes later, they went one better. Jimenez pouncing and poaching as he does so well, and put it into the roof of the net. That was after Krull had stopped an effort from Doherty. So Wolves in front 2-1. Pukki had a late chance to level things, but his effort was saved comfortably by Patricio. Wolves ending the match then on a high, winning 2-1. Farke was pragmatic, I suppose, in interview. To be frank, Norwich should have been out of sight at the half-time break, but they didn't take their chances and they paid a heavy price. Yet another defeat for them, and so the final score at Carroll Road then was Norwich 1, Wolves 2. So to Villa Park then. Aston Villa against Southampton. Goal difference was all that separated these two at the bottom. The loser was guaranteed a place in the bottom three at Christmas. Not a particularly appealing prospect. Eyes were on Grealish and Ings. They were the two respective hotshots in either side who were getting the goals at the moment. An early setback for Villa, however, when McGinn, in an innocuous challenge, forced him off with an injury. He limped off. El Ghazi had an effort that was saved by McCarthy on 14 minutes, and Ings had a half chance before, on 21 minutes, he was given a second opportunity, and he latched on to a Heaton save following a drive by Bertrand, and he nipped in to slot it away, and that was 1-0 Southampton. 10 minutes later, and Stevens got his head to a corner from Ward-Prowse, and it gave Heaton no chance, and the Saints had doubled their lead 2-0. And that was the state of things at the break. On 51 minutes, a dreadful defensive error by Aston Villa, and it resulted in yet another opportunity for Ings, and he jumped on it, and that was 3-0 to the visitors. In absolute nirvana were Southampton at this stage. And anyway, Villa did respond, but they got a goal back on 75 minutes, a cute goal from Grealish. He was on the edge of the box, and with a sort of neat, soft volley, managed to find the corner of the goal, and so they reduced it to 3-1. There was an opportunity for Højbjerg to extend Saints' lead after Ings' effort had been saved by Heaton, but he blew the chance. And a final late chance for Grealish, which pushed away. But to be perfectly frank, Villa deserved exactly what they got, nothing. Southampton and Hasenhüttl deservedly took this game and won it by 3-1. So to the Amex then, and Brighton at home to high-flying Sheffield United. The Blades, one loss in the last 10 matches. What an incredible performance from the Blades. And Stevens was back for Brighton. Mousset on the bench for Sheffield United. McBurney in from the start. Fleck was suspended. Early action. A Blades corner caused havoc for Ryan, and he completely missed it, and Egan was on hand to connect, and in it went. Unfortunately, VAR had seen an infringement, a handball, so it was disallowed. A little later, Brighton had the ball in the net, but it was deemed offside, so remained goalless. But then on 23 minutes, a big woof downfield got Brighton's back four in a real state. McBurney muscling his way through, managed to get to the ball. Dunk was stepped aside easily, and McBurney's shot hit the net in off a post, and it was 1-0 to Sheffield United. Remained that way till the half-time break, into the second half, and once again Sheffield United getting the better of things really. McGoldrick, he had a couple of chances, some of which the keeper responded, and another he hit the side netting. And from a Norwood free kick, a header was spilled by Ryan, but again the tapping was ruled out for offside. So still 1-0, Brighton still in the game, rather surprisingly. And on 85 minutes, McGoldrick again arriving at the at pace, managed to chip it over. And so one could actually say he could have had a hat-trick, but at least he was getting into the areas where he was dangerous. So anyway, there was a late yellow card for Basune, but at full time, Sheffield United had won this game and continued their great run, now only one loss in 11. They won the game by a single goal. So final score, Brighton 0, Sheffield United 1. So to the Vitality Stadium then, Bournemouth against Burnley. This is possibly going to be the shortest summary of any match that I've done since I've been doing this. Both managers were celebrating their 7th year in charge of their respective clubs, and of course Eddie Howe went from Burnley to Bournemouth in his second stint. That's about the extent of the comment on the first half, which was absolutely atrocious. The second half wasn't much better. Bournemouth had the better of it, but it wasn't good enough, because a minute from time Rodriguez managed to get a head, shoulder, some part of his body to a great cross from the left, and it went in the goal. And Burnley had snatched a victory by a single goal. 5 shots in total from both sides. Dreadful game. Final score, Bournemouth 0, Burnley 1. Well, first match of this week 18 was at Goodison Park. We were treated to the opportunity of viewing the 2 new managers who were sitting in the stands. Ancelotti being confirmed as the new manager of Everton. Well, that's a tremendous appointment, I think, for the Toffees. Ancelotti's CV is par excellence. He's won in Germany, in Italy, in England, of course, and he's also won Champions League, so you can't get better than that. Arsenal had Mikel Arteta, who's been number 2 to Guardiola for quite a while, and of course he's an ex-Arsenal player. But I don't think either of them would have been too impressed with what they saw. It was a pretty poor match, all in all. Very few chances created. The defences weren't exactly fantastic either. There was a lot of dreadful errors, and basically it ended up as a goalless draw. No surprises in that. The Everton faithful got really cheesed off with it towards the end, and I'm not surprised. Really showing up both teams' lacklustre performances this season, and one hopes that the highlight shouldn't be a Jordan Pickford save. That was one piece of brilliance in the match when he denied Aubameyang. So final score then, a pretty miserable Goodison Park, was Everton 0, Arsenal 0.